The recording apparently is in progress, but we've been told that before and we won't be fooled again. Folks, welcome to Cinema Flex Music Picks. I'm Dave, your host for the most of the
Take two.
Yes, Jamie and I have been, well, I was going to say booted out, but neither of us seem to have been booted out. We just seem to have been separated. But in the spirit of Crosby, Stills, and Nash, even after a separation, we can reunite. So
Yes.
here we are once again for a top five Crosby, Stills, and Nash. Jamie, thanks for joining me.
Again, yes, because we got disconnected and I was about to go into my number three. So we got to start it from the top and do number five again.
I didn't get
know
your
each
number
other's
four,
picks
so
on 5 and 4.
yeah, I didn't get your number four. So, Jamie, number five is.
Well, as you know, act surprised. I didn't know what to put as my number 5. So what I did, I thought about it long and hard. Well, one through 4 was set in stone, but with number 5, surprise, Davey, I went with the first album and I went with Long Time Gone.
Ah.
How can you believe it? So as I was saying in the first take, and hopefully we don't have to do a third one, is the first time I ever heard this song. First time I ever remember hearing this song was when it opened the Woodstock movie. And the Woodstock movie version is the live version they did at Woodstock. So every time I heard it on the radio after that, which was a lot, it reminded me of the opening of Woodstock. And I like how this song has a lot of anger in it, and it feels like it's going to fall apart at times because, as I said before, I've seen Crosby, Stills, and Nash more than any other band. If you include Crosby, Nash, Stephen Stills solo, David Crosby solo. I've never seen Graham Nash solo. I still have time to maybe check that box. We'll see. But he usually says Stephen writes the rockers, Graham writes the pop hits, and I write the weird shit. And even though this isn't too weird like Wooden Ships or anything, it's got a weirdness and an anger to it. And I like how it's about to fall apart at the seams, and then it comes back together with the chorus. And it appears to be a long, brings it back together. And I like how it does that because I like songs that get to the edge and then come back. And Crosby wrote this song. He said the night Robert Kennedy was assassinated, in his words, abbreviated, he said, it was written the night Bobby Kennedy was killed. I believed in him because he said he wanted to make some positive changes in America. And he didn't. And he hadn't been bought out and sold like Johnson and Nixon. I was already angry about Jack Kennedy getting killed, and it boiled over into this song when they got his brother too. So there you go. Long Time Gone.
Yeah, and as you say, a nebulous track. It's on the verge of falling apart, but just stitched back together with the harmonies, and yeah, just quite a few Crosby tracks on these albums have that quality, and it's something that isn't so much evident in, say, his solo album, the debut, the If I Can Only Remember My Name. That really shows you what happens when you take that element out. And you know, the weird shit, as he would call it, is just allowed to expand and kind of grow and grow. And I like that too, but you're right, it is good to have the kind of elasticity and then snap back in, you know.
Yep.
Well, Jamie, I don't know if you know this, but my number 5 is also going to be a David Crosby track. Once we've done this one, that's us back to where we were anyways. We can't milk that too much longer, I'm afraid. But here's my radio copy of Daylight again, and I'm going to go.
Ah, there you go, the DJ promo version.
Yeah, and it's gold foil on it and everything, so you know that adds at least 53 pence onto the value of this album. Graham Nash in this period, what was that? That little yellow mustache. It's not even blonde, it's yellow. Yeah. Delta is my pick from Daylight again. David Crosby wrote it in the midst of one of his worst periods of drug abuse, which is saying something. Everything that people like to anecdotally apply to Keith Richards, that he adopts for a cartoonish persona, was true for David Crosby. He was spending thousands and thousands every single day, was stealing from friends and whatnot, and living destitute practically, and going without as much food as possible just so he could spend it all on crack in this period. So this was originally going to be a Stills Nash album because they wanted to see what does that sound like after so many Crosby Nash albums and after a Stills Young album. What does an album with Steve Stills and Graham Nash sound like? Unfortunately, Atlantic weren't too keen on that notion, so said, no, no, you need the C and CSM to really sell some records here. And thank goodness, actually, that they made that decision because it got us Delta, which to me is just an absolutely gorgeous song. Again, the lyrics, I love the child who steers the riverboat. Lately, he's crazy for the deep. The river seems dreamlike in the daytime. I mean, it's David Crosby acknowledging his own issues, but almost completely admitting that it's like a dream, it's like a daze. There's nothing he feels he can do about it at this point. Um, there wasn't much he could do about it at that point, really. I mean, his addiction issues would continue; they'd get worse even as we know he went to prison, and that's the only way he could actually sober up in the end. Yeah, a bizarre story to say the least of in the 80s for David Crosby, quite a dark period, but he was still able to come up with these absolutely gorgeous songs that go back to the beauty that he was able to come up with before the real addiction issues, the Guinevere's and the like, and the Lee Shores and the Triads, where he's able to just come up with this absolutely gorgeous, beautiful, introspective track that somebody who's that deep into drugs probably shouldn't be as aware as he was, as self-aware, but it's remarkable that he was. And it was written solo. He didn't have any co-writers on it, although as I said, Jackson Brown did push him into, no, you need to finish this, David. It's too good to just toss off and not do. Crosby says to this day, it's really the last thing he thinks he ever really wrote as a member of Crosby, Stills, and Nash. Everything after was just bits and pieces and hodgepodge and whatnot. But yeah, Delta. In fact, he probably doesn't remember writing it, so he's probably just going off
Yeah.
the liner notes. But Delta is my number five, and I'm curious to hear what your number four might be.
Well, as we were saying in take one, his other good song is Might As Well Have a Good Time,
Mhm.
which is kind of like the Delta Ho, I gotta sober up. Might as well have a good time. Is 4 songs later.
Yeah.
Is it 4 songs later? He couldn't wait 5 songs or until it's over.
Never mind, turn your back on love, turn your back on the Delta.
Yes.
Yeah.
Number 4, I'm going with Carry On, but I'm going with the version on Four-Way Street.
Good, because
It's a
this is almost
3-minute
exactly how I
song.
lost it before. So here we go. Good.
Yes. And this is where we got cut off. So hopefully
Yes.
we don't get cut off here. It's like a 3-minute song stretched out to 13 minutes. More, the track is more minutes if you include clapping and talking and shit. I love how they stretch this out. It's a noisy song. I play this song over the decades for people who know CSN only for Teach Your Children in Our House, and they cannot believe it's Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, because it is, I guess it's hard rock, but it's noisy rock. It's kind of noise rock, but it never loses its groove. And I love when the groove starts, because if you don't know it's a long song going in, at the 2:24 mark, it starts going down, 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 and you're like, "Oh, this is different." And then they start working in the "Where You Go and Now My Love," right, and then right into the groove. And then after that, it's just balls out jamming. It's a wall of guitars. I don't know who's playing what part. You can kind of tell, but I'm listening. I'm going, that sounds like Neil. Well, it could be Steven. I don't know.
Yeah.
But they're playing off one another. And it's a wall of guitars, but it never loses its groove. And Crosby said recently, he made the headlines, well, whatever, headlines saying that he doesn't like Iron Maiden. He considers it noise. Well, he needs to revisit some of the tracks on this album, like Southern Man and Carry On, because they're pretty freaking noisy. But yeah, I love it. Love it to death.
Yeah, and it's almost got a kind of Santana-like quality to it.
Yeah, kind of. A little bit of Allman Brothers.
Yeah.
A little bit of yeah, it's noisier than Santana though. It's just
Yeah, though,
in
especially the
the
live version, but it does have like marimba drums and things.
yeah, yeah, it does.
The thing you get in the live version that you don't get on Deja Vu is, as you say, the interplay between Neil and Stephen, where old tensions came back from Buffalo Springfield, and they wanted to one up each other and be the
Yeah,
guitar
yeah.
hero. And Stills is easily a better guitar player from a technical point of view, but Neil was a very
One of my
distinct.
favorites.
Yeah,
And the vocals on that version, they're not perfect, but that adds to the rawness of it all and the excitement and the electricity of it.
I will confess, the first time I ever had that album, I was disappointed because I one of my tracks on my longer list, Sweet Judy Blue Eyes, I was gutted when I realized you were just getting 30 seconds or
Yeah,
something.
I bought it on cassette the first time I ever bought it, and I thought my cassette was broken.
Yeah.
They forgot 6 minutes of my cassette in the front.
I was angry when I
Yeah.
picked that.
The album goes right into the do 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 if you don't know. It's like what happened?
Where's the song? Why?
Yeah.
I mean, that's actually more annoying than not including it at all, I think.
Yeah, just
Just,
get it out of there. That is so weird.
yes, it's such a bizarre.
And you would think they would reissue it when they reissued it recently,
Mm-hmm.
like for record store day, like a year and a half ago. I'm like, oh, I bet you they're gonna add the full version. Nope.
Yeah, yeah,
Nope.
yeah, and Stills gets a writing credit out of that. It's got to be something as cheap as that. That no way, if Steve gets 30 seconds, he gets an extra writing credit. So he needs something else. We've not got room in the album, so right, okay,
Right.
it'll be something tedious like that because there's been no tensions were escalating at that point. My number four. Tell you what, I will go with because you've already mentioned it, and it's on my t-shirt. I'm going to go with Wooden Ships, from Le Debut, which first of all, this album in general is just one of my favorite albums of all time. I just adore it to bits. Blew my mind first time I heard it, and it's exactly why not having the full version of Sweet Judy Blue Eyes annoyed me on the live record. But Wooden Ships was, as you said, one of those tracks that made me go, "Whoa, this is not what I expect from the Our House guys, from the Marrakesh Express guys." To hear Wooden Ships for the first time with that, I mean, it's got a great loud organ sound. It's got a wonderfully jagged guitar sound from Steve Stills, which is actually more of a Neil Young kind of sound, even though Neil wasn't in the band at this point. Because we're obviously still in the trio at this point. And it was a co-write with Cantner, wasn't it, from Jefferson Airplane, I believe, with Crosby and Stills, I think. But what a track! I mean, ostensibly it's what's so funny about peace, love, and understanding, and we're all a bit like if you give it a go and whatnot. But what an odd way to do it. I mean, just the open of that with the whole, if you smile at me, I'll understand. That's something that everybody everywhere does in the same language. And holds that for ages. And some live versions, it seems to hold that for about 13 minutes. And then we go into the whole parts about, hey, can I have some of your purple berries? Yes, I've been eating them for such
It
a
sounds like two hippies talking to each other,
fucking,
naked in the
yeah,
woods.
yeah. It sounds like the
High as hell. Here,
back
man.
on an
Have some of my
island.
berries, man.
Yeah, I mean it does go to some much darker places, and it does have a lot of allegory about Vietnam and things such as the time. As you mentioned with Bobby Kennedy, certainly a lot to fill the newspaper headlines in those periods. But Just a terrifically odd, offbeat song, but still with great musicality to it. I mean, when it all hits in the chorus with the wooden ships on the water.
Almost like the refrain to Long Time Gone brings it back to me.
Yeah, and little parts where like on the very free, and then you just hear very quietly and easy, easy, the way, it's the little
Mhm.
part sometimes that adds up to something.
Oh yeah, you need the little parts,
Yeah, it
or it
just
becomes boring.
yeah, and it sustains more. I mean, if you listen to the Jefferson Airplane version, this blows it out of the water for that very reason, because they don't have that intricacy in the harmonies and things that
Right.
just add up to something much more
And
fun.
I don't mean that song needs the little parts because that song would be boring. I just mean music in general needs
Yeah,
the little nuances within it, or
yeah,
music becomes
the
boring
little
in general.
idiosyncrasies that you wouldn't write.
Yeah.
You would just say, "Hey, that sounded kind of cool."
Yeah. Or even if you don't even notice it, but you
Yeah,
subconsciously notice it and it keeps you coming back.
yeah. It is the kind of thing that sticks in your head, and yeah, becomes synonymous with the song. And sometimes you hear a live version and they don't do it that way,
And
and
then I was just going to say, and you do it in your seat.
yeah, and you start singing the
You'll
version,
do the part. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, wooden ships would be mad for. So that takes us to well, three. So what's your try? What's number three?
This might be surprising because ask me 5 years ago and it wouldn't maybe be in my top 10. But
Hmm.
recently it has jumped down, 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 down. I'm fucking that up. How's the riff go? Dark Star.
Yeah.
I'm fucking up the riff. Did you ever notice that the album has two different
Yes,
covers?
yes, the happy and
The happy
yeah,
and the yeah, I didn't notice that for the
yeah.
longest time. I bought the cassette and it had Steven looking at you, and then I think my CD had that where they're laughing, and I didn't notice the difference until like my 40s, like way later.
And it's such
But
an innocuous difference. It's like, why bother? Why?
yeah, first time I saw it, I was like, noticed it, I was like, whoa. Um, but I'm going with the live version from Allies.
Oh, that's so weird.
Down, 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 down. That's closer. Down, 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 down. It's one of my favorite riffs, and it's the same version.
From
This is
yeah,
like the audio version of this DVD, Daylight Again, which is this 1982, 1983
yeah. And it was
performance.
promoted as one of these half live, half studio things. Really,
Yes,
really, it's because
it had War Games on it
they didn't have material. War games, make
and
your
Raise a
voice.
Voice.
Yeah,
And Barrel of Pain is badass on this album. With Michael Finnegan getting
mhm.
in on the vocals, he played keyboards at the time
Yeah.
for the band. Anyways, and if you get this, or even if you watch clips on YouTube, David Crosby is out of his mind, stoned. You look into his eyes, and there's no one behind those eyes, man. I don't even think he blinks during this performance. It's just doll face, but he still sings like an angel. Anyways, Dark Star.
Yeah.
It is so fun. It is so danceable. The reason I like the live version is because it gets moving just a little bit more than the studio version. I love the studio version too. It's fun to dance to. It's fun to sing with. Dark Star, let the memory of the evening be the first thing that you think of when you open up your smile and see me, Dark Star. It's so singable.
Yeah.
The song, especially the live one, sounds like a party to
Yeah.
me. A party for old people who like this kind of music, but
Hmm.
still, a party. It's my wife's favorite Crosby, Stills, Nash song.
Oh
I
wow.
think I fed off her love for the song
Mhm.
over the last few years. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. This song is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
It's
Wow.
not overly complicated.
Yeah.
It's not it's not David Crosby weird. It it almost has a Caribbean guitar riff to it, but it's not. It's rocking,
Mhm.
but man, because Stephen Stills likes to work in the Caribbean kind
Yes,
of
it does.
music
Certainly.
into
Yeah.
his or
Post
Caribbean or
Manassas,
however you
all
want
that
to say
stuff.
it.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. but yeah, I just think it's one of their. It might be their most fun song.
Yeah.
I like fun, so I'm going with Dark Star.
And wonderful to use a title at that as well, when Dark Star is so synonymous with being a rather ponderous 27-minute Grateful Dead jam.
Oh, that version I can do without.
So,
You know, I saw Crosby, Stills, and Nash open up for Grateful Dead. That's the reason I went. I was on the floor of a stadium in Pittsburgh. All
mhm.
my buddies were deadheads. Like, oh, you wait until you see the Dead, because I never liked the Dead. Wait until you experience them live. CSN came out. Woo! Loved it. Grateful Dead came on. Worst concert I ever saw in my life. Hate it so much. And it's on YouTube. The show I saw is professionally filmed for a box set that they released sometime in the 90s. And I rented the DVD at Blockbuster. When I saw it, I'm like, oh, my concert I hate. Let me bring it home and see if I like it. I've grown up. I'm older. I'm wiser. Put it in. Still sucks. So
Yeah.
recently saw it on YouTube because I keep giving it another shot. Still sucks. 1990, Pittsburgh Three River Stadium, Grateful Dead. Go out there and look at it if you want.
I wonder if there was an edict from the Dead's management saying, tell CSN they can't play their Dark Star.
I can't remember if they did or didn't.
Dueling Dark Stars, slightly different songs to say the
Yes.
least. But hmm, do you know? I thought I'd leave my list a little bit nebulous and kind of bounce off of what you're doing as well. So in the spirit of that, then finding a track that's fun. This isn't a fun song, but it still makes me laugh. It's from it's from your favorite record with the pointless dueling covers. It's from the CSN record, which for some reason I didn't pull out. I'm going to go with Cathedral. And the reason is, I think it's the most ridiculously over the top stoner song I think I've ever heard in my life. Graham Nash admits that he wrote it on an acid trip,
In a
but
church.
if you had to write a parody song that you imagine that an old hippie or middle-aged hippie would write about an acid trip in a church, you would actually come up with Cathedral. And for some reason, that makes me laugh. When it really, I mean, you know, it's good. It's got lovely harmonies when it opens up with the whole, I'm flying in Winchester
Winchester.
Cathedral. This is, and then all of a sudden it goes into that ridiculous chorus. And standing on the grave of a soldier that died in 1799, the day he
In the
died on
day
his
he died, it was his
birthday.
birthday.
And I
And I
noticed it
noticed it
was
was mine.
mine.
In my head,
I
didn't know
didn't
it
know
was.
who I was. I was spinning back
That was
in
back in
time.
time. Yeah.
And I am
Yeah.
high upon
Hi.
the altar. High, high.
Oh, I love it.
Oh, it's so ridiculously over the top. There's the
Yeah.
Graham Nash, the least subtle writer of the narcotic experience I think there's ever been in rock music. How shall I phrase this? Shall I try and go for a metaphor or just an allusion to? No, I think I'll just sing exactly what happened. Yeah, so I am high and I'm on an altar. That'll do. That'll do perfectly. Yes, it's a nut song. It's absolutely bananas, and it's almost like a bizarre Crosby, Stills and Nash version of prog rock. It shouldn't work.
Yes.
It shouldn't work.
And written by Graham Nash of all people.
Yeah, and it kind of doesn't work, but it makes me happy every time I hear it for that very reason. It's so preposterous. It's so bizarre, but because it's Graham Nash, it's still also very sincere and kind of heartfelt. Which I don't think anybody else can really pull off quite like Graham Nash. And when he sings those parts about, and the pace just picks up, and
Yeah.
the parts about Jesus. I mean, Jesus pops in because he's obviously in the cathedral, and he's singing about um, how many people have lied in the name of Christ, and I can't believe it all. So many people have died in the name of Christ for anyone to heed the call. It's just
Yeah.
pomposity and exactly why punk needed to happen. All the usual cliches, but I would not trade it for the world. So Cathedral is my kind of. I shouldn't like this. It shouldn't be anywhere near my top five, but I love it every time I hear it. So number three, Cathedral.
My number 2 is Cathedral.
Oh, brilliant.
But you know what? That song, with all its ridiculousness, got me hook, line, and sinker. I fell for all of it. I thought it was so mystical, and I liked the proggy elements, and it was like Crosby, Stills, and Nash almost doing Dungeons and Dragons in a weird way, you know, because you feel like you're in this mystical, weird church. And here's the thing. I went to a Catholic grade school, 4th grade to 8th grade. And then I went to a Catholic high school my first year and half my second year. And then I wised the fuck up around 16. And I said, open up the doors and get me out of here. So, but I was amazed that someone was saying things like, too many people have lied in the name of Christ for anyone to heed the call. I'm like, you're allowed to say that? So many people have died in the name of Christ that I can't believe it all?
Yeah.
You're allowed to say that? Wow. I thought it was so edgy to my little Catholic boy ears at the time. So I actually talked to Graham Nash. I talked to Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young on there was a syndicated show. I don't know if they had it overseas or not, called Rockline. I think it was maybe in the early 80s to the early 90s for about 10 years. You could call in, you know, it was live, but it went to all the radio stations in North America. And you could call in and talk to your favorite artist, whoever was on that Friday night, or it was during the week. Because I remember I was on there quite a few times, and I had to go to school the next morning, tired as shit. The first time I did it, Pat Benatar was on, and I am 15 years old. So the show starts at 11 o'clock at night, my time in Pennsylvania, so Eastern time. They're in LA. I called the number that you have to call at 6 o'clock. Maybe it was earlier. Maybe it was like 4:30 or something. I'm like, it's ringing. I'm through. Nobody in this house uses the phone tonight. And I lied there watching TV, you know, Wheel of Fortune, Jeopardy, the whole 9 yards, into the late night news, with the phone to my ear, listening to it ring. I would have it I would be on the pillow. It would be between my head and the pillow, listening. Actually, at 10:30, they answered, "Hello, who do you want to talk to?" And I got on with my question. So now I know they answer at 10:30. So I started calling a little later, and I put the receiver down. Now I know when they answer about. I'll pick it up at 10 just to see, you know, maybe they'll answer a little earlier for me. So I did it for Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young when I was 18, my first year of college. And do you want to hear me talking to them as 18?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
All right. Now, hopefully this Bluetooth speaker likes to disconnect sometimes on its own. Hopefully it doesn't do that. So here it is. I'm calling from Pittsburgh, 18 years old, from my dormitory at Point Park College, 1988. This is when they released American
Dream. Yeah.
Yes.
And we're going to move on and talk with Jamie in Pittsburgh. Our station is WDVE. Jamie, welcome to the Rock Line, and tell us what's going on with you tonight.
Hey, guys.
Hey, how you doing?
I want to tell you that I saw you last 2 times here in Pittsburgh, and it was more than a concert. It's like an experience. I mean, it's great.
Pittsburgh's a great rock and roll town.
Yeah. And I was wondering, you got the 4 of you, do you plan on touring together in the near future, doing a major tour?
That's the question. Right after they ask us, how did you guys meet and how was it at Woodstock? The next question they ask is, are you guys going to tour together? We don't know. We have not decided.
And yet you did something over the weekend and you have the acoustic benefit coming up. It seems like it may be pointing in that direction, but you're still not sure, huh?
No. I like Neil's idea of doing another album first.
Yeah,
because you know what happens then is that you're able to play a lot of new music and not be bound and tied down by the music that we've made in the past. You know, we like to as musicians keep moving forward. You know, I don't think anybody knows yet.
We'll find out in the future. Jamie, do you have another question?
Yeah,
yes. And me too.
Get it off your chest.
I'm trying to put across the fact that there are a lot of wonderful things been done in the name of Jesus Christ. And at the same time, there's a lot of insane things been done in the name of Jesus Christ. The religious leaders of the past have been largely responsible for many of the wars in the past. And I was just trying to let everybody know that I really believe in a higher power, but you got to watch it, you know?
Yeah, the Crusades, the Inquisition, a couple little mistakes like that. Yeah, just a couple. Jamie, thanks for being on tonight. We have to take a time out. We'll return in just 1 moment.
That's as much as it's great to hear Graham confirming what's rather obvious from the lyrics anyway. Again, it's not terribly deep. The highlight of that for me is Graham saying, I like Neil's idea of doing another album.
It sure took a long time.
But I think, unfortunately, Neil's idea was, yeah, I'm going to do another album with Crazy Horse. Yeah, and moved on to Ragged Glory. Yeah.
Yes, and he didn't mention anything about tripping in a church.
Yeah, I mean, Neil only did that album because he promised that he would if Crosby cleaned up his acts, and American Dream will not be featuring on the list or that tape.
Do I sound different?
No, massively, not massively. But you know, Crosby was trying to be a bit narky there, wasn't he? With the whole the Crusades, the Inquisition.
I was just happy to be talking to CSNY.
He was just trying to throw in a few like, the Crusades.
Pick up a history book, maybe you learn, and you don't have to ask us this question.
Crosby's never go over the Spanish Inquisition. It didn't expect it. That's his problem. Nobody does. I will again mirror you then, because that was your number 2. And you picked a fun track before that and said you wanted something a bit more upbeat. And I said, well, mine would be upbeat, but then I went for Cathedral, which is just upbeat in a totally different type of way. So I will go with something that Graham was saying there. It's a heartfelt song. I'm not sure Cathedral is terribly much, but the one that definitely is again from the debut album, and it's what I consider to be the best example of what you play someone when you want to say this is what the Crosby, Stills and Nash harmony sound is, which is Helplessly Hoping. And the lyrics on it are very sophomoric in terms of just being the how much alliteration can I fit into one, with the helplessly looking hovers near. It's like HHH, what, full of that kind of stuff. But it's just gorgeous. It's what I think it's just Stills on acoustic guitar with no other instrumentation, if I remember right. And it's purely their voices just in perfect sync. Perfect sync. It's the best illustration of the Crosby, Stills and Nash sound. And it does have a very old-fashioned kind of way of even talking about relationships and whatnot. Talking to, it's loose and a lady who lingers, but then when we're talking about the little bits that make up the tracks, saying she is lost and choking on hello, and he's going up, they're going down, and then
should we attempt it? You want to attempt it?
Then we get that they are one person, they are two alone, they are three together, and then the big they are for each other, and then that's really only when you notice the acoustics even there in the first place, because the harmonies are so high in the mix. It's like Stills is almost mixed down so that the harmonies are purely there. It sounds a cappella, even though if you listen to it, it isn't. It's just so gorgeous.
And it's and putting FOR each other.
Yes.
Kind of genius.
Yes, that's
kind of genius.
Yeah, that's brilliant. They are
it's simple. It's like, why didn't everyone think of that? But at the same time, it's genius.
But I mean, again, it's got that kind of old fashioned chivalrous quality that they have in some of the lyrics in that period, where for some reason they were trying to write in a kind of old fashioned style, which I'm not even sure who wrote the lyrics on that one, because the I think they're all credited, but
It might be, don't quote me on this,
Mhm.
but it might be the first song they ever sang together.
I think it is. That rings a bell that is the one that, depending how you believe it, Joni's house or Mama Cass's house,
Right.
the three-part harmony was developed, and by goodness, I think they perfected it first time out, if that's the case. Absolutely sensational. So yeah, my number two with a bullet would be Helplessly Hoping. I think it's the best example of one of the most famous things about the band, which is their harmony. So what's your numero uno?
My number one favorite Crosby, Stills, Nash, Sometimes Young song is also my favorite song of all time.
Do you want me to guess?
Period. It's off this album. This is my original CD. I bought it in
Yeah.
early 86, 1986, January of 86.
Are,
I
are,
asked
we, are
for it
we
for
going that
Christmas.
way? Are we going that?
Huh? Go? What?
Southern,
You doing sign language to me?
Southern,
You giving me signals?
Southern.
My first CD I bought. I actually wanted this for Christmas in December of 85, but my mom bought me Deja Vu by mistake, or Santa brought me Deja Vu by mistake, and I returned it and got this one. So here's the remastered version on CD, and it has some bonus tracks, and my vinyl version. And the song is called Southern Cross. I think
See, Southern Cross. That's what I was doing.
Oh my god, dude, I'm not gonna get that.
Cross.
Cross. You had to get out a compass and a crucifix before I was gonna get that. Yes, it's Southern Cross. I think it's the best written song in the history of songs. I remember going to drum practice, my dad bringing me to drumming practice. And I think I was 14 at the time, maybe. And that's the song came on the radio. And we pulled into the parking lot. We parallel parked in front of the little drumming shop. And we got out, and that song just played. And I told my dad, I said, I think that's my favorite song of all time, Dad. And it hasn't changed. They do say you hear your favorite albums and songs before the age of 14 or 15, something like that. And I kind of believe that, other ones seep in, but yeah, think about that, everyone listening. Think of your favorite songs and what age you were when you first heard them. So yeah, Southern Cross, I just don't know what else to say. The harmonies are perfect. The songwriting, Stephen Stills has a little bit of a, dare I say, Kenny Rogers feel in his voice to it, and it's just soothing. His voice is so soothing in this song. It's almost like yacht rock, in the video
is, yeah.
MTV, they're on a damn ship, or they're on a little, not a ship, but on a boat sailing. So it is kind of yacht rocky. But if it is, this whole album's a little bit yacht rocky. If it is, it's the best yacht rock I have ever heard. The first time I ever saw them do it was the first concert I ever drove to. First concert I ever saw was Kiss in 1978. I was 8 years old. Same year, I think my parents took me to see Neil Diamond. And then my first rock concert, I was 15 or early 16, and I didn't drive to it. I went to go see Dio and the Sacred Heart tour. My second concert as a teenager was CSN, first one I ever drove to. And they did Southern Cross. And they did it at the Civic Arena, sometimes called the Mellon Arena within its history. It's gone now in Pittsburgh. And they called it the Igloo because it looked like an igloo. It had this top, and the top opened. It had these pie-shaped pieces to it, and they would interlap until they got to the last piece of pie. So the whole thing would be open except for all the pies overlap each other in one area. And during Southern Cross, they started opening the roof slowly. and the night breeze was coming. I'm getting chills, and the night breeze was coming in, and you hear dana, dana, dana. I was 16 crying. I did not know at 16 that you could literally cry that hard at music until that moment. And that's probably why I saw them so many times live, because I was chasing the buzz, baby, chasing the buzz. It was the first heroin hit, and I wanted that again and again. Did I ever get it? Not quite like that. I mean, they were great every time, but I never got that moment. Now, was it because I was new to the concert experience? If I was older and that was my 100th concert, would I be a little numb to the whole experience? We'll never know. We'll never know.
An interesting one, because David Crosby's not on that at all, because that's one of the tracks where
he's in the video.
Yeah, he's in the video, but it's Art Garfunkel doing the vocals on that.
Yeah.
But it's seamless, because Stills is doing the verses, and then it becomes that great harmony. But I think Tim Schmidt's on that one as well, if I remember right. And it just becomes this gorgeous blend, as you were saying during those.
Crosby sings it on that.
And you get those parts where, again, we're talking about the small parts that make these songs interesting. Where he's singing, Stills just sings like one part of the chorus, like trying to think of the song where he's singing the
got out of town
on the boat going to Southern Island. And when he gets to the chorus, he goes, I have been around the world. But then Stills does the looking for that woman girl who knows she knows.
That's another reason why I like this song a lot. A lot of the lyrics, I'm like, what the fuck did they say?
Yeah,
and it keeps a mystery to it at all times. I've been loving this song for years, and there's still a mystery. What are they talking about?
I still don't know what he sings at the end of Sweet Judy Blue Eyes, and I don't really want to. You know, where he's going then. Brilliant. Okay, I'll go with it. But yeah, it's those little parts where he's singing that. What great lyric as well when it's got that whole part where Nash starts to sing the harmony with them on the verse as well, where they're doing the when you see the Southern Cross for the first time, which must be resonant for you, especially when you hear that line being your favorite song of all time. Because when you hear the Southern Cross for the first time, especially for you, you understand now why you came this way. Yeah.
And the version on here is very good. And it actually opens as Stephen's playing the beginning. Graham says, "This is a great song he wrote here." I have a lot of this memorized because I watched it over and over and over as a teenager on VHS. I had the VHS.
Yeah, it's although Nash has got one hell of a mullet in it, if I remember rightly. One hell of a mullet. Even for the 80s, that was my absolute favorite Crosby, Stills and Nash song. God, I think I've referenced it 5 times, so it's going to be nobody's great surprise, is indeed Sweet Judy Blue Eyes. Because the first time I put on the debut album, I just couldn't believe what I was hearing, with that guitar intro with the and then all of a sudden the bass going boom, 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 boom. I thought this was supposed to be this,
the point,
where I'm no fun anymore, but you're fun enough here. This will certainly do. Absolutely sensational stuff, from start to finish. It's an epic, but one that changes so often that it doesn't feel like it's been straight. And again, it's why it annoys me so much that we only got 30 seconds on the live records. And when they're doing the verses with the "I am yours, you are mine, you are what you are." Dead drop. You make it hard, and you make it hard, and you make it. It's those little parts that change ever so often in a CSN song that just absolutely blow my mind. And then when they change it completely with the Friday evening, Sunday in the afternoon, and they're doing all the hey, 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 what have you got to lose? And then Stills has his voice did go when he started losing his hearing a bit and whatnot, but when Stills does that, it's my heart that's a suffering, it's a dying. That's what I have to lose. I'm like, absolute sensational stuff. And then again an instrumental break, and you get the whole voices of the angels ring around the moon. It just everything in it just changes every minute and a half. And as you say, ends with the most glorious, with the whole.
And if you see them live, I think they did it twice on me.
Yeah.
They started off doing an acoustic set, and then this song becomes the last song of the acoustic set. And then during the do, the band kicks in and stays for the rest of the show.
Yeah, which is what a way to do it. I mean, it's such a great song, and the Woodstock example of it, which I think was their second gig. Woodstock, it was their second or third gig, that they played together.
Woodstock, this is our second gig, man.
Yeah.
We're scared shitless.
Unreal that they were already that well rehearsed, that perfect for each other, because it's that great combination of being rehearsed, but as you said earlier, never sounding too slick or forced, and that's something that I don't really know why they have a reputation for being corporate rock, but a bit too yacht rocky. Maybe later on, maybe they, were seen as the yuppies and whatnot. But by God, those early days, they could be raw as hell, even when they were doing these gorgeous harmonies, and it was just an acoustic guitar. And Stills was such a virtuoso, that no two songs ever needed to sound alike. Even when it was an acoustic ballad, the harmonies would change every dynamic of it in a million different ways. And Sweet Judy Blue Eyes is indeed written about Judy Collins, as we know. And again, you mentioned the pun of the for each other. Well, we've got Sweet Judy Blue Eyes. She's sweet, but it is also a sweet. The whole thing's a big sweet, which is just perfect pun. It's such a brave way to open your career as well, with this big 7 minute strange track that could never be a single in a million years. But in that period where it was album oriented rock was coming in, they really blazed the trail when it came to that. So yeah, it's just always been my favorite CSN track, and I can't imagine anything overtaking it. So, yeah.
I think I'm a little burned out on it. That's why it's not on my list or honorable mentions.
Yeah. So well, you mentioned, let's hear some honorables. So let's.
I'm looking at this. This is I don't know if you have this. I know you like your box sets. This one?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty nice box. I almost didn't spend the money on it, but I said to hell.
Out of print now, so this is what you did.
Other than Carry On, the live version, that's the only thing off this album that anyone. Oh, did you pick Help? No, you didn't pick Helpless.
No,
you picked Helplessly Hoping.
Because
I think a lot of people forget that Helpless wasn't a Neil Young solo album or solo song. That it was
and I think the Last Waltz contributed to that as well.
Yeah, that's a good one, but I like the version with Joni Mitchell on The Last Waltz more. I like Woodstock. Speaking of Joni Mitchell, didn't she write Woodstock and she wasn't even there?
Yep.
Deja Vu. It's kind of like that. Kind of goes with Long Time Gone and Wooden Ships. Deja Vu. It's kind of like a trifecta of the same type of thing there. Almost cut my hair, had to grow on me. It's kind of like, is this song still going on? I think when I got in my late 30s, early 40s, I started to appreciate more. Other songs, 4+20.
Yeah.
Shadow Captain off the 77 album.
Yes.
I give you Get Blind. Back to Daylight Again, Turn Your Back on Love. There, a lot of people, I get it. It's not a great album, but a lot of people like to make fun of the Hot Dog album.
Yeah, and it's the cover that really does that.
Live It Up.
Yeah.
It's a stupid. It's got some stupid cover. It's got some songs that I could do with Tomboy. I can do with that. Live It Up ain't bad. They tried to get a top 40 hit. But the gem on here, Haven't we lost enough?
Yeah.
Maybe it has a little bit of 80s production, but you trim down that production, it fits on the debut.
Yeah.
It's right on it.
Yeah.
Guinevere, beautiful, complex little song. That's when you see them live. Well, when you used to see them live, that's when you heard the talkers in the audience, Davey. That song brought out the talkers where you just wanted to go, shut the fuck up. I know it's not party time right now, and I know you want to talk to your girlfriend about what happened last night, but shut the fuck up.
And like I was saying about having an almost ye old speak, they have the like yours, milady, like yours in Guinevere. Who's using milady? Yeah.
And if you said that they never did a Nash Stills or a Stills Nash album.
Yeah.
They did a song.
Mm-hmm.
And it's on this
It's
box
on the CSM box set from 91.
And it's a remake of Dear Mr. Fantasy. And it kicks ass. The problem I have with it is at the end, Stephen Stills goes into this badass guitar solo, and it's not long enough. Right when you want it to really kick in is when it starts fading. I'm like, don't even fade. Just bring the volume back up.
Yes, come back, Steve. Come back.
So yeah, there's some honorable mentions. Look, everything off the first 4 albums,
5 albums. Yeah,
Marrakesh Express, I'm not the biggest fan of, but they have a demos album that came out maybe a decade ago. And the demo of that song is 10 times better than the finals.
Yeah, and a few bonus tracks on the reissue of the first album as well are pretty fantastic. And we finally got the early version of Blackbird on an album, which until then had only been on that box set. I'll throw out some honorables too. Find the Cost of Freedom. I always thought was, Ohio gets all the plaudits. I avoided Neil Young tracks for one specific reason. It's just because I cover a lot of Neil Young on the channel and I wanted to spotlight the other guys specifically. But Find the Cost of Freedom with that great acoustic picking is the sad counterpoint to Ohio because it's the B-side and they were never on it. Albums that were on the 72, was it just called So Far or something, the compilation album?
Oh yeah, So Far.
So they both appeared on that. But Find the Cost of Freedom, I think, is best heard on did I remember to pronounce? Yeah, on Deja Vu Live, which, contrary to the title, isn't that classic album live, but it's pretty much Neil Young's Living with War done with.
I was at that tour. They got booed by half the audience.
Yeah, and to me, this is actually one of the last great concept albums of that kind of generation because obviously it takes Neil's actual concept album, but then it fits in all the Crosby, Stills and Nash tracks that are pertinent to it too. Like obviously Teach Your Children, teach them about these kind of mistakes, but then you get, what are their names, and you get Military Madness,
which kicks ass on that version.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. Wooden Ships again, and for what it's worth, the kind of predictable tracks that are written about that Vietnam era, but great to have on there. 49 Bye Byes, one of my favorite, more upbeat Stills tracks. 49 Bye Byes, with the whole steady girl, be my world, to the gypsy gone, now she's gone. I let that man show us that. How was I to know? Oh, yeah.
And real quick, Shock and Awe on this is good too. I forgot what song.
Yeah. I love the Living with War album in general, and After the Garden is one of my favorite Neil Young tracks. I'll throw out another few quick ones then. Carry On, as you mentioned, either version, just stunning, absolutely stunning. I'm burnt out on Things Like Our House, but if I hear it, I'm never not smiling because it's just so cozy and warm, literally like the track. Graham's such a warm, cozy writer. There's no artificial.
Like Teach Your Children.
Yeah, those kind of tracks.
I saw the last time I saw Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young at the merch table, they were selling individual condoms, and on the little condom square it said "Teach Your Children."
Just picture David
I
Crosby.
should have bought one just to
David
keep.
Crosby's mane on a condom cover. That'd be pretty fantastic. Wasted on the Way. I think's a wonderfully ironic song because Graham's writing this track about how, oh, we're so much wiser and older now.
Yeah.
Right in the middle of when the band are falling apart and Crosby's about to go to jail for drug abuse. So older and
Meeting Drew
wiser.
Barrymore. Yeah.
And indeed, we know what's happened in the last few years with Neil and Graham both leaving their ways for younger models making a bit of a splash. Pardon the pun with Daryl Hannah. And then I'm going to go with one last one that is my favorite of the Crosby Nash tracks, which I wasn't going to throw in because I thought we're doing CSN, but Southbound Train, I absolutely adore. Southbound Train from just the album called Graham Nash, David Crosby, when they were still just
A good song.
it's such a gorgeous track, and it's an old-fashioned kind of singer-songwriter track. I mean, if you look up the kind of singer-songwriter type of track in the dictionary, it's the type of thing you'd see. I mean, it's literally strumming the guitar and then harmonica, but their voices just obviously work so well together, and it's just got a. Again, it's about young soldiers coming back in coffins, and Graham's voice in that is just sensational with the to the land of their fathers whose lives you have led, to the station at the end of the town on the south. And that's when David comes in on the south bound train going, and Graham goes up and Crosby goes down, goes going down, down. It's just, it's one of those things you can't really describe it. It has to be heard, and that really just sums up CSM for me. It's
Yeah. Immigration Man is great. Page 43.
yeah, just so many classics.
That's all Crosby Nash. Yeah.
Yeah, just so many, and so these ones are filling as well. I mean, Long Time Coming, and the acoustic concert. And, we've covered Daylight again, Allies, and
There's the last one.
one that one real oddity. Yes, here's my copy on it too, 2012.
Yep.
The real oddity of this one is you get the performance with Tom Jones singing Long Time Gone.
I don't have that.
Oh, it's on YouTube. You get to hear Crosby and Tom Jones duetting on Long Time Gone, which might be the weirdest thing you've ever heard in your life.
Yeah, that does sound weird. I didn't know it even existed.
Oh,
Do you have this behemoth? Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we didn't both need to bring our collections out. I think we've just got the same thing.
I know.
But yeah, I mean, this is great for Crosby, Stills, and Nash fans. It's great for CSNY fans. It's also great for just Neil Young fans because there's still 5 tracks on this that are not on any Neil Young records. Not on anything at all. This is the Blu-ray audio version. That's why there's less discs on it. But
The stick is a Big Mac.
yeah, I mean, the book is insane. And there's 5 tracks that have never been on any Neil Young record. A couple of them have now been hoovered up by Neil Young archives. There's a couple of tracks that would be redone on Tonight's the Night, a couple of tracks that would be redone on Wind in the Water by Crosby Nash, and a few things that were intended for the Human Highway Aborted album from '74 before the Doom Tour was called.
Can I just say that when they did To the Last Whale live all the time, it was always pre-recorded, the acapella part, and I just wish they did it live real one time. But I guess it was just too difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and you wouldn't want to mess that one up. It's gorgeous. It goes past this slightly, again, cliche hippie type song title, and when you just listen to his music, you think, yeah, it's pretty fantastic. It's pretty fantastic. So, well, we've certainly explored this, and I'm really glad because we have talked about it for a while, but it's been real fun to kind of explore. And I'm glad
we didn't do 10.
I'm glad that they at least reunited to back Neil up in his position for Spotify earlier in the year, because it's the first time they've ever done anything in the CSN name since the whole split, once Crosby and Nash fell out and blah blah blah. We don't need to go into all that, it's been well documented, but I don't think we'll ever hear anything from them again. But David Crosby's still performing, making fantastic records. He's on a hell of a streak at the moment. Stills, he could pick it up if he wanted to. He's got that.
Done touring. He says he's too old.
Yeah, although if you've heard the blues albums that he did with Kenny Wayne Shepherd, there's the rides and pretty stuff. They're cool. And Nash, he did the live record last year where it was the first two solo albums back to back, and he's still got it.
He has a solo album that from a decade ago or so. It's what is it? This Path?
Yeah, this Path Tonight.
Yes, that's a damn good album.
Yeah. So yeah, and of course Neil Young's got 3 albums coming out in the next 14 minutes and a box set due at the end of the. In fact, that's Knife and a Choke. He does have 2 box sets coming out,
and they're all going to be raw with a lot of feedback. And
yeah, he's got World Project coming out, World Record coming out next week, and then the Harvest 50th anniversary box set in December.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. Well, Jamie, this has been a lot of fun, my friend. So thank you very much for coming on and talking
hanging out,
to us,
talking CSN.
Okay, pal. So thanks very much, folks. Stay safe out there, and love and mercy. Thanks very much. Good night.